looking at that quote again, Jean-Pierre de Caussade, that the present moment is the ambassador which dictates God's will, really stood out to me. I listened to that audiobook. Uh, Jean Pierre de Caussade. I think it's called Divine Abandonment to God or something along those lines. I was uh, looking it up on AI. There was another, that quote stood out to me, and then the other one was that the present moment is an inexhaustible source, fountain, inexhaustible. So this actual present moment cannot be exhausted. There's an infinite source, and this is what dictates God's will. So I ran the quote, I guess, maybe paraphrase quote, through Grok. And Grok basically agreed, saying that present moment is all that exists, which we hear a lot of talk about this. It even becomes cliche, but anybody who's gone on to any sort of search or anybody who's come across some awareness of themselves and has begun a journey, whether they want to think of it as a spiritual journey or as a journey of becoming a better version of themselves, or just kind of want to find more out of life, well, that's directly where that search leads, is to the very fact that the present moment is all that exists, because we have such a tendency to listen to these stories that we tell ourselves because our mind just doesn't stop. And the thoughts continue. And I think one of the best modern texts on this subject came from Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And he borrowed from all kinds of ancient texts. So, it's just a universal truth that's been around forever, but I just feel like he did a really good job of explaining it, and also pointing to how to practice actually being there. Grok was saying that it asks itself the question whether or not it is here, and that this is the direct route to the present moment, is to ask. The way Grok said it was as if it itself asked itself this question. But I think about it as a human being. That's a practice. Am I really here? Not just, am I really here? That's kind of like the question of who am I, which can just run deep and be kind of a bottomless question. But then again, that's what this practice is about, is experience rather than thought. So actually experiencing reality. It reminds me of Tom Powers putting forth the question, am I honest? Is one of the first places he suggests we start is with that question, am I honest with myself? And he points out that if we quickly answer yes to to that question, we're more than likely deceiving ourselves. And that actually has been that's actually a wonderful search as well. When I first came across his suggestion on that, yeah, it's real easy to think that we're being honest with ourselves, but it's not until you really start to take a good, hard, close look at yourself without the judgments, and just to see how you're operating, you get a different idea of, or a clearer picture of your motives and perhaps further along the path of trying to just become even more aware of what's actually happening, which I think is just, leads to a more fulfilled existence, opening up the possibilities of the universe, rather than when we live in these conditioned behaviors, as Anthony DeMello used to point out, that we close ourselves off to all possibility because we're just living in these stories that we've told ourselves throughout our lives. So if indeed the present moment is the ambassador that dictates God's will, and that it is inexhaustible, well, it's pretty damn exciting, actually.